Welcome to Fangirl Football. I'm Judy.
I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Lauren. Week 2 is a wrap. We have one more week of preseason games, though, and I imagine we won't be seeing too many starters in the next week. NFL preseason, we're also getting close to draft days for many folks, with the last 2.5 weeks of August or right before the season kicks off being when a lot of drafts are happening. So as you're working on your own cheat sheets and preparing for your drafts, let's talk about some of the most recent news that may impact your plans.
Yeah, Lauren, let's get started with injuries. So we're going to start in Pittsburgh, where running back Jaylen Warren is expected to miss multiple weeks with a hamstring injury. So we're going to give a little bump up to Najee Harris, but I think you've got something else that happened in Pittsburgh, and then we'll see how this all plays together.
Yeah, I saw that the Steelers center Nate Herbig is out with a torn rotator cuff. So they're going to have a rookie in that center position now, which there's been a lot for the Steelers this year that I'm pretty not optimistic for there.
There has been a lot, and so they're still trying to decide on their starting quarterback as well, and I didn't realize that the center is out. Over the weekend, I did catch the beginning of that game with Russell Wilson being in there, and he was sacked a few times, and Justin Fields ended up running a few times, so that's going to be interesting to have the rookie in there. I don't know how that's going to play with the running back situation with Jaylen Warren out, and we'll give a bump up to Najee Harris. They're not really sure how long Jaylen Warren's going to be out. We'll have to keep an eye on that. And then behind Najee Harris, there's Cordell Patterson, because Arthur Smith likes to bring him with him everywhere he goes. Cordell Patterson, though, is 33 years old, so hopefully he won't be stealing too many of the touchdowns from Najee Harris or from Justin Fields.
Are these on your draft or avoid list?
This whole team is on my avoid list.
Same here.
Yeah, just a bad situation. Okay, so another injury came last week when J.J. McCarthy has a torn meniscus, and then he needed surgery for it. So he is the rookie quarterback in Minnesota, so he's out for the year. We're going to end up watching Sam Darnold be the quarterback there, and there's always been a lot of talk about, are the Vikings just cursed because of the injuries that happened? This is similar to last year when things got kicked off. We were a few weeks in when Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles. We also had another injury in Minnesota when Jordan Addison was carted off the field during practice last week. It was just hours after they had announced that J.J. McCarthy was going to be out for the season. They don't think it's that serious, but they haven't come out with a true timetable of when Jordan Addison is going to be back. He's been tumbling down the draft rankings, partially because of his quarterback situation now and his injuries and his legal troubles. He was in the offseason arrested. The combination of all three has him sliding on drafts. On the other side, they also have their tight end, TJ Hawkinson, is optimistic that he's ready for week 1, is what I heard, but it's a little hard to believe. We've got quite a few ACL tears that people are returning from last season, and he tore his in December, and the other ones aren't coming back until mid-season, but they somehow are making a rumor that he's going to be back for week 1. I'm not really sure how that's going to happen, but they'd love for that to happen because his backup, Robert Tonyan, has been suffering back spasms since late July and hasn't practiced at all with the team. So Hawkinson's going late in round 9. He is probably a good pickup. We'll see if he makes it back sooner rather than later. But if you can get by with somebody that's lower down and then you can pick him up, he is an elite tight end. So it would be a good pickup. And I want to say sorry to Jets or Justin Jefferson, because he's got to be wishing he had a different quarterback situation. And this team has just been decimated before it's ever even got on the field, really.
It is a sad situation for Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
There's some other wide receivers, though, that we can look at over in LA. And starting off with Puka Nacua and his knee injury, he is still week to week. So definitely this could impact his draft position if this injury continues to linger for him. But while Puka is hopefully rehabbing, Cooper Kupp feels like he is his old self. He was injury riddled the last 2 seasons, and he has been getting a lot of receptions from Matthew Stafford in training camp and feels like he's going to be part of the focal point of the offense this season. So if he is really healthy this year, he could definitely outperform his current ADP, making him a potential steal.
He definitely could. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I think they also have some rookie there that is carving out a little piece of targets while Nakua is out.
It definitely makes me feel like Puka Nacua is not worth the high draft round he's going in.
Yeah, I agree.
Because he's going like 1 or 2.
He is. He's going, overall 14th.
Yeah, that's way too soon for me.
Yeah, definitely. An update on the holdout situation. So we have Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, and Brandon Ayuk that are all still holding out. Chase and the Bengals are talking. His base salary this year is just $1.2 million. So hopefully he just wants to sign a deal and go ahead and get that done. But at least they're talking, so there's some hope there. It was reported over the weekend that CeeDee Lamb turned down $33 million a year. He's been on the record stating he wants $35 million a year, which is in line with what Justin Jefferson had. I'm kind of hoping there was some more issues to that term. It doesn't seem like the $2 million is worth the holdout on either side of the ball, but that's what he supposedly turned down. And it's seeming a little bit more like Brandon Ayuk is going to stay with the 49ers. Last week, it was reported that the Steelers had made an offer, and it doesn't seem like Ayuk has turned it down or taken it. San Francisco may have stepped up a little bit and said, we want to keep this guy here. And now they're working to make that happen. But the deal from the Steelers should give him a pretty good baseline to be going off of for what he's worth on that market.
Let's go from injuries and holdouts to recoveries. It was announced DeAndre Hopkins is expected for week 1, which is pretty exciting. So he went down like 3 weeks ago with a knee injury that was expected for 4 to 6 weeks. And I just said he went down 3 weeks ago, so I don't think we really expected him in week 1. We expected him a little bit after week 1. But the Titans head coach said on Sunday that he should be back soon and is on track for week 1, which puts him on the early side there. He had fallen from mid-7th round to late 8th round in drafts after this injury news. And so he's expected to recover a bit from that, move back up a little bit since he is expected for week 1. One thing there, though, is in 2023, Hopkins ranked wide receiver 22 in fantasy points and in total fantasy points and wide receiver 30 in points per game. Last year, he didn't miss a game. It was his first full season in 3 years. So maybe this year his injury came early and he has a healthy full season. But at the same time, there's other talents there now. There's Calvin Ridley, there's Tony Pollard that could pull targets away, especially if we see Hopkins get injured again. I'm a little hesitant to spend around 7 on Hopkins. Maybe if I could get 8 or 9, but what do y'all think?
I like Hopkins, but 8 or 9, but you're not going to get round 8 or 9 for a wide receiver 1 on a team. So I don't know that we'll see him slide that much. His age is the only thing that's concerning. I've always loved DeAndre Hopkins in the past, and we've seen that he has some chemistry with Will Levis, and Levis definitely needs him on the field because he was there last year and they had some good plays together. So I'd like to see if that could continue, but it will be interesting to see if he can stay healthy.
So while we didn't see DeAndre Hopkins this past weekend in the preseason games, he wasn't the only one.
He wasn't. 19 teams sat everyone in week 2. So those teams included, we'll just run through them really quick. You can see if your favorite was on here sitting all of their starters, or you may already know, but Arizona, Atlanta didn't even start Michael Penix, their second quarterback, who is a rookie. Baltimore, Carolina, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Dallas, Detroit, Green Bay, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Los Angeles Rams, Minnesota, New York Jets, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Seattle, Tampa Bay, and Tennessee. And I think what I found very interesting in the play that I watched this weekend was the teams that did start their starters seem like they want to really be hitting the ground ready to go on that first week of the season. So I'll use Kansas City, the Chiefs, as an example. In the past few seasons, the Chiefs have gotten off to a super slow start in their first few games, and they're playing their starters this year in their preseason games. And it looks like they're practicing some plays. We saw Mahomes toss it behind his back to Travis Kelce, which I'm glad they did that in preseason. Let's don't try that in the regular season, but you never know what they're going to try to pull. But they're trying to just be ready, it seems, to go. And then we've got this list of 19 teams that aren't going to have played hardly any real snaps in a game situation. And I'm not sure exactly what they're thinking. I guess they don't want anyone to be hurt, but is it better to be ready to play versus not having anyone to play? And if you aren't ready to play, it's the same thing as being hurt. So we'll see what.
I mean, I was gonna ask if Minnesota even had any starters to play.
Yeah, I don't know that they did. They're still trying to figure out, I guess, who is going to start. So maybe I don't blame them because every time you play somebody, they're getting hurt. So we'll give Minnesota a pass on not playing them. But the rest of the teams, they should be playing some of their starters. So we'll see who they play in week 3. Week 3, the final game of preseason, is traditionally when you don't play your starters because you do have so many players fighting for a job. And this is your last chance to give them a chance to earn that job and to be on the team and to make the roster. So I wouldn't expect teams to be playing and starting different players this weekend. But we'll see. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll give them a series or two, and then they'll move on to the guys trying to make the roster. So on another team that did play their starters, we have Houston, and they played their starters minus Joe Mixon. We've kind of been wanting to see who's going to get the targets. Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, or Tank Dell, all the wide receivers, the top 3 wide receivers for the Houston Texans. And we saw this weekend that on the 11 times that quarterback Stroud dropped back, Nico Collins ran 10 routes, Stephon Diggs ran 9 of those routes, and Tank Dell only ran 6 of those routes. This is the second week that Dell's taken a back seat on route running when they have been getting ready to pass the ball and on even being on the field. So if this continues, we'll probably expect him to have a few big games, but he's going to struggle to find consistency in production, fantasy production for us. So I'm kind of moving Dell down a little bit. I haven't been super big on any of these wide receivers because I do feel like it's going to get spread around. We did see last year, though, that both Nico Collins and Tank Dell could be viable starters. You could start both of them and get production out of them. One usually had the bigger game than the other, but at the same time, now we've got Stephon Diggs in the mix, and I'm just going to stay away from this one. Anyone else on the Texans wide receiver situation?
Yeah, I like the quarterback. I like CJ Stroud, especially with all the wide receiver talent. But for that same reason, I don't really want to draft the wide receivers for my team. I just too many and not enough targets to go to just one.
Yeah, I'm there with you.
So you'd be big on drafting CJ Stroud, but not any of the wide receivers?
Yep.
I like Stroud, but I don't like his price tag.
No.
Yeah, he's just going too early.
You think he's going too early? You're getting drafted too early in the rounds.
Yeah, I like a lot that are later on. So I'm happy waiting and taking some better wide receivers than this group that I think are in stronger positions. Turning to Buffalo and their preseason 2 game, they had a running back that is a rookie, Ray Davis, and he had a very good game over the weekend. He is going off the boards at running back 52 and round 14 in drafts. He's the backup to their primary running back, which is James Cook. And it was interesting. Cook took all 15 snaps in the first 3 possessions of the night. And then Ray Davis came in. Ray Davis carried the ball 8 times for 58 yards, with averaging 7.3 yards per carry, which is really strong. He averaged 5 yards after contact and forced 4 missed tackles in those 8 runs. The Bills chose to sit Josh Allen in week 2. He was expected to start, but apparently it rained really heavy before the kickoff and they just decided to sit him. I don't blame them for sitting Josh Allen on a bad field. We can let that slide. And I'm intrigued by this rookie sitting behind James Cook, because James Cook should have a really good year, but I feel like Ray Davis could definitely be eating into the production a little bit if he's going to have average yards per carry of 7.3 yards.
And with him going like round 14, he might be a really good late round pickup for running backs.
Exactly. You could stash him away and see what happens after the first few games. And round 14 it's a great pickup, I think.
Talking about one of the teams that didn't start many of their starters. In fact, the Packers had 31 of their starters sitting out against the Broncos. And it showed. It was a really horrible preseason game, with the Broncos ending up massacring the Packers 27-2. The Broncos took an early 10-point lead, and the Packers just never recovered. Like I said, they were sitting out a lot of their starters, and so you were hoping for a little bit of energy and a little bit of grit from some of the guys that still might be looking for a job this season, but there wasn't much happening. There were a couple of good plays from the defense, and that happened to be the source of their only points in the game, with a 2-point safety. The running and passing games just really lacked energy. The final roster decisions are coming, and they're going to be playing up against Baltimore to see who ends up being cut. Takeaways from this game: you can expect Bo Nix to absolutely be the starter for the Broncos, but I'm still not drafting him. He did go 8 of 9 for passing 80 yards. I'm also really not expecting much from Marvin Mims Jr. He was only targeted once in the first team, and Nick seemed to really be favoring Tim Patrick. None of those guys, again, are high up in my draft list. And as far as the Packers go, there wasn't really much happening there. Don't be looking for a kicker. If you're going to be looking for a kicker, don't be looking one from the Packers. Their kicker situation is the worst, least option available, I think, is what the decision they're going with this year. Greg Joseph pulled a 47-yarder wide of the uprights in the game this week, and the offensive line just was really struggling. Even though this wasn't a really meaningful game and all of the starters were sitting out, if the Packers have some injury or something happens in their offensive line this season, there could be some holes that they struggle to fill behind injuries. So hopefully everyone on the Packers team stays healthy this year.
Is that their starting kicker, or did they sit him the starter too?
I don't think they have a starter yet. I think that they're still auditioning for the role, which is why the situation is not looking great for them.
I do like Bo Nix, so we'll see what happens with him.
Yeah.
I'm getting on the Bo Nix bandwagon. I'm jumping on.
He might be in my 2025 draft list, or maybe he's a late season waiver wire pickup if he continues to improve over the season.
Yeah, he might be a bye week pickup because the Broncos are going to have an easy schedule.
And he had no interceptions, which was, for a rookie quarterback, that's always good to see.
It is.
Also on the Denver side, McLaughlin and Williams, the Denver running backs, may make up a two-man backfield. So, Tiffany, while you were saying the game wasn't super meaningful for the Packers side, I think we got to see some really awesome things on the Denver side, which might help your draft in knowing, should I draft McLaughlin or should I draft Williams? Which one might be the main one getting the targets? So you had mentioned about Bo Nix's passes and touchdowns with wide receiver. There was actually also a second touchdown that he had that got nullified, but it wasn't on Javonte Williams, the running back side. It was on Nix's side, unfortunately, by crossing the line of scrimmage before the throw. So Javonte Williams, the running back, did have technically in some ways a touchdown, He had also ran 3 times for 12 yards. So it does mean there was looking at their running back usage on the Denver side, Jaleel McLaughlin got 11 snaps, 8 routes, 3 carries, and 1 target. On the Williams side, he got 9 snaps, 3 routes, 3 carries, and 1 target. So they were equal on the carries and the target.
Doesn't really settle our dispute, Lauren, because I know you're on the Javonte Williams side, and I'm on the Jaleel McLaughlin side, and they basically split. So we're going to have to keep watching and battling it out.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, is that since we've had the 2 camps, they might end up just splitting it 50-50, which makes Jaleel McLaughlin maybe more of a steal.
This is true. And I like Jaleel in round 12. I think that's a good risk. Truly, if they split it, then taking him that late is a good chance.
I did wonder how much of this is reading too much into 6 total carries in a single preseason game.
We always read too much into preseason. It's what we do. We get excited this time of year and we read too much into every handoff and every throw, or lack of throw and lack of handoff. So it's all we can do is speculate right now. And every game we throw out some speculation there and get excited usually about somebody we shouldn't be getting excited about as well.
As we're always looking for the explosive player, the standout, who's going to have the standout season and really rack up those fantasy points. But by the end of the season, we're just hoping that we have enough players to fill our rosters.
Very true. And that we're not going to our next quarterback. In Vegas over the weekend, Gardner Minshew was named the starting quarterback for week 1 over Aiden O'Connell, or AOC. Neither of them looked particularly good in this game. And the coach said that the decision was based on many factors and not on performance in the preseason game. There just isn't anything fantasy-wise to really love here. I know we all still love Davante Adams because whoever's throwing the ball is only going to be basically throwing it to Davante Adams. So that's the only reason that we like Davante Adams. But Vegas this year, I don't like the situation for, and I just want to stay away from. Last year when Minshew was with the Indianapolis Colts, he averaged 13 fantasy points a game, and we're probably going to expect the same from him this year. We'll see if they end up switching to Aiden O'Connell some other time during the season, or if they stick with Gardner Minshew. He can probably fill in for you, but he is not a quarterback that you really want to draft.
We're going to move over to the Colts, and we're going to talk about Michael Pittman and Josh Downs. So Josh Downs did suffer that high ankle sprain, and he's expected to miss at least 4 to 6 weeks. So we expect Michael Pittman Jr. to see an even larger target share. This is going to boost his value as a high volume receiver, especially earlier in the season with Downs being out. But this also depends on whether or not Anthony Richardson can stay healthy. And we have that good quarterback wide receiver situation that we're hoping for there.
Yeah, the Colts are a mystery for me this year. So we'll see how long Downs is out and what it does. I know they've got a rookie as well, Adonai Mitchell. So he may step up and take some of those targets, and they still have a mystery at tight end. They've got a lot of tight ends listed on their depth chart, and somebody's going to have to step up and take over there. So we'll see.
Number 1 spot, yeah. That's another situation up there between the Vikings, the Steelers, the Colts, the Raiders. Just avoid if possible.
On the other side of that, on a team that we are not quite as avoidant on, there's news out of the Commanders. There's news out of the Commanders camp. Either way, the Commanders may rotate the wide receiver 2-3 spot. So head coach Dan Quinn suggested multiple times over the past week, and then actually said post Saturday night's preseason game that it might end up being a rotation between the wide receiver Jahan Dotson, Diami Brown, and Olamide Zacchaeus. 2 of those are going pretty late in drafts. Diami Brown and Olamide Zacchaeus are both going really late rounds or not being drafted at all, whereas wide receiver Jahan Dotson is going around 11 typically. while they said it was going to be a rotation potentially. So while Dan Quinn said that it might wind up being a rotation, what we saw in Saturday's game wasn't quite a rotation, where Dotson still was running 11 out of the 12 dropbacks that rookie quarterback Daniels had. Brown was 7 out of 12, and Zacchaeus was 4 out of 12, which definitely is not a full rotation, or like an even rotation in my mind. Dotson had a promising 2022 rookie season, struggled in 2023 due to inefficiency, and they brought his position in drafts right now is really tied to the excitement for Daniels and the potential for being wide receiver 2, and that expectation that he will be wide receiver 2 with the departure of Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, I think he's got a chance to step up here for sure. I think this is Jahan Dotson's role to lose. I don't see the other two as really eating into this role like Dan Quinn is suggesting. He might have to fight his offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, for that, to make that happen. So we'll see. I think Jahan Dotson taking a step back last year. It's amazing that not everyone took a step back last year with Sam Howell and Jacoby Brissett in there at quarterback. So this is a much improved situation, and he can step into that role. I don't know. You said he's going around 11 typically, and that might still be too high.
I agree with you there that it'd be a little high for me too. At the same time, a little bit later rounds, if I still find him on the board, I don't think that the news of a potential rotation would make me avoid this situation or make Dotson undraftable.
I agree. Well, that's a wrap for this week's Letters from Camp. These updates should help you fine-tune your draft strategy, especially when weighing the risk and potential upside. Good luck building out your own cheat sheets and going through the draft preparations. Happy drafting. We'll catch you next week for a wrap-up of preseason. If you're enjoying the Fangirl Football podcast and you're ready to dive into the season, go to our website at fangirlfootball.com and join a league and play with us. Share your link with friends and play together. Winners will get some Fangirl Football swag.